Hey Jacob,
Oh, hey, bud.
what are you doing?
Just, playing some Dark Souls.
Dark Souls? Isn't that game where it's really dark and apparently it has a bigger meaning to it? Such a bigger meaning that it could be a whole presentation on Dark Souls?
Oh, yes, it does.
And is it true that Dark Souls has morbid dark visuals and subtle narrative and artistic value?
Yeah, it's actually super dark. You forgot about the Sweetheart creator, but you got it all there, bud.
Wow, you should do a video presentation on that. I think that'd be cool.
Can you stop knocking that shit over? Alright, yeah, maybe I will.
I wake up feeling like I won't play right. I used to know, but now that shit don't feel right. It made me put away my pride.
Dark Souls is an action role-playing game developed by From Software and is the child of Hidetaka Miyazaki. If you ask anybody, this game is notorious for its overwhelmingly difficulty. Fans of the game know to take it slow, take it easy, analyze every individual enemy's attack patterns, and try to think of the optimal way to take them out efficiently. And if you complain about the difficulty, many people online in forums and websites will just look at you dead in the eyes and tell you to get good. Complaining gets you nowhere, and neither does cheating. There's no way around this stuff. You gotta either improve yourself, improve your weapons, armor, gear, or you just get out. Many people do give up, but the people that often beat the game consider it one of the best games of all time and find little to no satisfaction in anything else. Very seldomly can you find a game that forces you to analyze your surroundings, look at every tiny little detail, and become obsessed with it if you want to overcome it. There ain't no easy mode, normal mode, hard mode. There's just Dark Souls mode. And if you can't deal with that, you die, and you die, and then you die, and then you give up, and then you pick up the game, and then you die. You can be killed by poison, toxin, enemies, players, the environment. Everything's out to kill you, and the game makes sure you know it right from the beginning when the first enemy you encounter is a big-ass boss. And he's hard unless you pay attention to the environment around you and find a way to cheese a victory. And that's a big theme in this game, paying attention to the places that you're put inside of. You need to look at every individual tile or else you can activate a trap and get got. You need to hit every single wall, make sure none of it's just a secret passage that can make your life just a little bit easier. And this can be a little difficult when everything's so gosh darn spooky or depressing. The game's areas oftentimes give up a mixture of 3 different feelings. Wow, this sure is pretty. Wow, this is cool. Or please get me out of here. And although that's a long list, don't get me wrong, the game has a lot of highly differentiated areas. As you go forward, you'll end up going through dark dungeons, fallen kingdoms, dreary woods, terrifying swamps, and so much more. But throughout all of these places, you can always have the slight feeling in the back of your head that you want to piss your pants. And that makes paying very close attention to all the detail really hard, but you gotta do it. And if you don't, you gonna get got. And not only are the environments spooky, but so are the enemies that you encounter. Although not in the typical way filled with maggots and gore and all this messed up stuff, but typically in either one or two types of ways. The first being, wow, how am I going to overcome this big boy? And the second being, wow, that's just sad. He was probably a nice guy before all this. And that's my favorite aspect of the game. The game primarily is wanting to invoke in the player the feeling of either hopelessness, dread, depression, or anxiety. And it does a damn good job at that when every enemy either looks like a sad, deceased warrior or some sort of great fallen beast. One enemy in particular is called the Undead Dragon, and this big boy is presumably a rotted corpse of a dragon hanging from a cliffside when you first encounter it. Upon further inspection, however, it'll attack the player, trying to hold on to the cliff while doing so. Instead of spitting out fire to burn you to death, it actually throws up poisonous bile, so wretched that it'll actually infect you and cause you to die if you don't wait out the infection and try to chug potions all the way through it. And if you pay close attention to the area that it's in, you can see that it was actually perched up on the ledge, forced to watch its brethren fly around and be free, while he's stuck there just being a rotten corpse. Now if that doesn't make you sad, I don't know what will. What I love about this enemy is it wasn't always going to be designed this way. The original artist wanted to make it a rotting corpse filled with maggots and have its intestines and lots of gore being displayed throughout. However, when given to Miyazaki, Miyazaki turned down the design and said to make it, instead of horrifying, more of a depressing tale that a player can put together by themselves. And I think that's something that made it a lot more memorable than just another gory jump scare that's present in many other games. This kind of subtlety is imperative to Dark Souls. Instead of having things thrown in your face or forced to make you scream, you just get a sense of dread. And this dread sticks with you all throughout. You don't know how you're going to beat these enemies. You don't know where the enemies are going to come from. Even treasure chests can be the death of you. You need to pay attention and be focused on the task at hand. And what makes this all much better is when you realize this isn't just a game, but it's a life experience had by Hidetaka Miyazaki. Miyazaki grew up poor, and he didn't have much to do as a kid, so he'd often find refuge inside of libraries and such. Now in the libraries, he liked reading American fantasy novels, but with not good enough English, he was forced to read really hard, really difficult books, and had to piece it together with the pictures that he'd see within them, and eventually made up his own stories. This mirrors the gameplay, in the sense that many players don't actually know what the hell's going on, and have to piece it together by themselves with little lore info that you can find from item descriptions, or just from the enemies and environments that you go throughout the course of your journey. So not only is the narrative structure of the game inspired by Miyazaki, the creator of the game's childhood, but a lot of people think that the difficulty is actually inspired by his adult life, which consisted of him being in a dead-end job, constantly being berated by his employers, and kept being told to do better at the things that he's already trying his damn best to do. Much like the last example, this can be seen in the gameplay as there's no repercussions for dying. You just gotta restart from the last checkpoint and learn from your mistakes and try to overcome them the best you can from what you've learned. And again, back to Miyazaki, he eventually quit this dead-end job whenever he figured out that video games can be more than just mindless fun, but can actually be an experience for the player. And oh boy, can this be an experience for the player. By having to analyze literally everything, it becomes a highly immersive experience. When I die, I don't just die in the game, I feel that shit. It hurts. I don't want to have to redo all of it, but I do, because the euphoria that you feel when you beat a boss is unlike anything before, because this game truly puts you in the world. With very little music, you get wrapped up in this world, and you become immersed in everything that's happening around you. And according to scholarly articles, and also just common sense, when you're immersed in something, the feelings that you get from it are amplified. So all the spooky, sad, and exciting feelings you get are cranked up to the max. And now you may be wondering, Jacob, what's the point of all this? Well, the point that I'm trying to make is that Miyazaki was right, and he succeeded. He thought video games could be more than just mindless fun. It could be art, and I completely agree with him. If you look at several different definitions of art, you can combine together all of them, and altogether, they'll generally agree that art is anything made by a human expressing human experience in order to elicit a feeling from the audience. I and many others will generally agree that Dark Souls fits this definition. It was made by Miyazaki to tell his tale of his childhoods and his older experience, and with its slow and difficult gameplay that forces you to look at all this spooky, sad environments and enemies, it makes you feel creeped out and sad. And that's a feeling. And gosh darn it, it's one of the most intense feelings I've ever had. I remember the first time I beat Dark Souls, I just sat there, watched the end credits roll by, and I swear to God a tear fell down my face. And I'll tell you what, if a urinal can be considered art, then Dark Souls definitely can. Because me and millions of others enjoy it and try to push others to play and persevere too, because it's an experience unlike any other. Thank you, Miyazaki, and thank you all for watching.